This section of the PLAAFP is for ages 3 through 12. The section of the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, or PLAP, are intended to engage parents and students in the IEP process, establish a context for discussion by the IEP team, establish a foundation for decision making, for priorities for goals and activities, and establish a foundation for SDI, or specially designed instruction. It is important to gather as much information as possible prior to the meeting so we can facilitate the discussion. Complete these items as a team before proceeding to the discussion of the rest of the IEP. It is important to remember that when we bring the IEP to the IEP team, it is a draft. You can have part of it done, but the rest of it's a draft. Strengths, interests, and preferences of the individual. The IEP team is required to consider the strengths of the eligible individual, also document interests and preferences to assist in planning for the individual's needs. Strengths are general things the student is good at: singing, telling jokes, math, computation, sports, band, following directions. For preschool children, this may include strengths, developmental skills in the Iowa Early Learning Standards, physical well-being and motor development, approaches to learning, communication, language and literacy, social and emotional development, mathematics and science, such as sharing, turn-taking, dressing, doing puzzles. I always document where I get the information. So if I interviewed a student, I say, when interviewed, Sarah stated her strengths are telling jokes and singing. Or when using a strengths inventory, Sarah indicated she is good at math computation and band. Or when Sarah's parents were interviewed, always indicate on the IEP where you got the information. Interests are things, events, or people that evoke the student's curiosity or what they want to learn more about. Sports, rocks, peer interaction, computers, music, etc. For preschool children, this may include interests associated with their daily activities: vehicles, animals, dancing, community helpers. Preferences are things, events, or people that the student chooses over others. They could pertain to, but not limited to, the needs of the student in the school setting. I like to really include how they like to learn. This helps in the high school setting, especially as they go to other classrooms. Working independently, using the computer. Do they like to work in small groups? Do they like to listen to things? For preschool children, this may include their choice of participation in centers or activities in the home, cooking, dramatic play, blocks, art, etc. Parents' concerns regarding their child's education. The IEP team is required to consider the concerns of the parents for enhancing the education of their child. Sometimes these are general statements. We would like more help in the area of math. We don't think her reading is coming along as well as it could. But maybe quite specific. We would like another hour of associate help for Susan. Jeremy needs access to a computer at all times. For preschool children, these statements might include concerns about kindergarten readiness, self-help skills, communicating their wants and needs, getting along with friends, participation in community activities. At this point in the IEP process, it is not time to set goals or define services, activities, and supports. First, assure the parents that their concerns will be addressed as the IEP is developed, and record their concerns in their own words. Sometimes parents have no concerns, and you can write, when interviewed, the parents stated they have no concerns. Consideration of the parents' concerns for enhancing their child's education is a required component of the IEP process. An effort needs to be made to obtain parent input anytime it is known that the parents will be unable to attend the IEP meeting. Sometimes the information they include at this point does help when they have, they need help cooking, or if they need help doing laundry or balancing a checkbook. Special considerations to be addressed in developing the IEP. Respond to each area of consideration. At this point in the IEP process, the team is identifying specific areas that bear consideration and potential action as a result of the IEP being developed. Each decision must be documented, though some may require little discussion. Limited English proficiency. Addressed in the IEP means only the area represents a concern, and that some information is provided in the area in the IEP. The discussion of a special consideration that is an area of concern and the indication that the area will be addressed could result in information being documented under other information. Effective disability, course of study, goals, services, and supports, or other sections. If a behavior is of some concern, but classroom or program-wide positive behavior supports are having a beneficial effect, I would definitely document it in case you need the information later. However, if the behavior is significant and the team believes it must be addressed in the IEP, under goals and services, activities, or reports, you would really need to consider having a functional behavior assessment and a behavior intervention plan. So then the team would indicate both the first two options. Behavior. Indicate that behavior is an area of concern and will be addressed in the IEP when the student's behavior interferes with his or her learning and the learning of others, or the learning of others. Indicate that behavior is an area of concern and will be addressed in a functional behavior assessment or existing FBA. We can always modify those. Behavior intervention plans will be developed if required to appropriately address the student's needs, or a BIP is required due to a disciplinary action. Your AEA will help you write these. Communication and language. Indicate that communication and language is an area of concern and will be addressed in the IEP when communication needs are known or the student is deaf or hard of hearing and the impairment adversely affects his or her learning. Indicate that communication and language is an area of concern and will be addressed in a communication plan for the deaf or hard of hearing when the student is deaf or hard of hearing, the impairment adversely affects his or her learning, and a communication plan is needed. Health. Indicate that health is an area of concern and will be addressed in the IEP when the student's health interferes with access to educational environments or with educational performance. Indicate that health is an area of concern and will be addressed in a health plan when the student's health interferes with access to educational environments or interferes with educational performance and specific action is required in the school setting. Braille. If it is needed when the student's vision is impaired to the extent that even with correction, the vision limits educational performance and Braille instruction is needed. Limited English proficiency. Indicate that limited English proficiency is a concern that will be addressed in the IEP when the student's first language is not English and the student has not acquired academic proficiency in English. You also have to make sure that you can prove how you're going to support this. Assistive technology. Indicate that assistive technology is needed and will be addressed in the IEP when the student cannot complete or participate in daily educational tasks or activities because of the disability, and assistive technology is needed. You have to make sure that the assistive technology you provide is not the same as his or her peers. Accessible instructional materials, or AIM. Accessible instructional materials. You typically provide these when a student reads more than 2 years below his or her peers. These materials help a student be able to access reading materials in the general education and special education setting. In addition to considering alternate formats for printed materials, so that the student's potential need for accessible instructional materials, it could be digital, print, graphic, audio, video, whether the student can gain information from standard print based on technology or modified in alternative ways. So if this is in there, you have to make sure that you provide these things. NIMUS eligibility. Students who are NIMUS eligible comprise only a very small percent. You're going to get prompted whether it's a yes or a no when you fill that out. So a student is NIMUS eligible if they're blind, if they're visually impaired, if they're unable to read or unable to use standard print because of physical limitations, or certified by a competent authority having a reading disability resulting from organic dysfunction of sufficient severity that prevents them from reading printed material in a normal manner. Other information essential for the development of the IEP: document information that establishes the need for activities and supports that are not directly related to a goal. Um, so, if they're NIMUS eligible, if they walk going up and down the stairs very slowly, and they may need an accommodation, if they have attention deficit disorder and they have a behavioral goal. For English language learners, you may want to indicate any accommodations on district-wide assessments. Here are some examples. Due to her ELL status, Maria will be provided written directions in Spanish on district-wide assessments. In addition to assessment accommodations due to his disability, Thon will have available an approved English-Vietnamese word-to-word dictionary. Prompts: describe the effect of this individual's disability on involvement and progress in the general education curriculum and the functional implication of the student's skills. For a preschool child, describe the effect of this individual's disability on involvement in appropriate activities. So you just make a general statement in regard to their disability and curriculum involvement and involvement in appropriate activities. You have to include information that describes the functional implications on the student's disability in both school and out of school. So, some examples. Simon is progressing through the general curriculum at a level expected for his grade in math, science, and social studies, but below his peers in language arts. He does not independently acquire content through reading and requires assistance in creating written products in subject areas. Accommodations will be required on job placements where reading and writing skills are necessary. Maria's physical limitations do not interfere with acquiring the content of the general curriculum. However, she is not always able to fully participate in all learning tasks and activities. She can use a microscope to observe the cellular structure of a leaf, but requires assistance to prepare a slide and does not always participate in the same manner as peers. She creates written products with a voice-activated computer system. Maria is very mobile in her wheelchair, but at times physical barriers interfere with access to places and activities. These are just some examples. As you can see, there are many more. I hope this helps.